Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty big Spider-Man 2 apparent maybe leaks that are coming out as of right now. So I'll give you guys a little bit like the spoiler warning slash like in case you guys don't want to care about the story, or at least want to go and speculate or talk about the story itself. Kind of give you guys a little like I guess preemptive, like make sure you guys don't completely spoil yourselves on this one. But as well, when it comes to this stuff, we're going to talk about this because it does kind of seem like the game is coming out sooner rather than later. A lot of folks are still kind of speculating around the September release date. We also have the really big kind of I guess notice when it comes to the brand new PlayStation big proper event, like not a state of play, but like proper legitimate event. And as well, when it comes to this stuff, we're just kind of waiting to see more like proper information coming out from the game everywhere. So we're going to talk about this. Once again, big spoiler alert, potentially, if these leaks are true. And if not, it's kind of just a fun thing to go and talk about. So once again, like, don't yell at me. Like, I've given you guys so many spoiler alerts for it. And in case you guys are kind of curious, give your thoughts and comments down below. As well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. We have the Twitter and Twitch stream down below. I'll actually be hanging up on Twitch right now if you guys want to hang out and chill. We also have the Amazon links for all the nice little consoles too as well down below if you guys want to pick them up for sale to even go play your Spider-Man game. And let's dive into the news. So as you guys have maybe seen on the channel itself, we saw this not too long ago where Insomniac Games was like, hey, we're excited to announce that the music from our brand new Spider-Man game is coming out too. Is the game still slated to release for this fall? Fall 2023 is an automated response. No. Then why haven't we seen any updates, stories, trailers, or whatever it may be? Because we're in the kitchen, we're working on stuff, we're chill. So basically the big gist like of this is no one really knows like what's kind of going on with the game. We see multiple different Spider-Man. We had Miles Morales for the prior game. We know about Venom, but this is actually now going to 4chan, which once again, not always the most reputable source when it comes to information or news and all of that, but it's intriguing nonetheless. So once again, last spoiler alert, and we're going to go talk about this a little more in detail, where we actually saw this thread come out as of like literally today, where a non-spoiler tidbit for y'all to verify the validity of this leak for later. So basically this like leaker and all these folks are basically saying, ha ha ha, you know, I'm just saying this. If you guys want to trust me, hear me out. You guys can look in a few months, whatever, and see if it's true. Now, once again, this is not 100% verified, but as of the time I got this info, Kraven's full name will be spelled as of Sergei Kravnov instead of Kravenov whenever relevant. Anyway, a few story snippets based on what I've seen so far from the game. Once again, big, like, spoiler alert. Where basically the game starts off with Peter and Miles, basically, you know, Miles Morales, based makes sense in the prior games, trying to actually locate a serial killer, interestingly enough. Pete suggests Miles should leave the legwork to him, since these kind of situations are always extremely delicate. This foreshadows their conflict in dealing with Venom and Kraven. So basically a big example of this one's going to probably be, at least what they're assuming, the big battle between like, do they want to just go and throw him into prison? Maybe go get rid of him, you know, or try to save them. That kind of like usual like hero's dilemma. And also might be why they kind of get split off. Maybe in terms of like maybe like a Peter Parker trying to be like, hey, I am like the OG Spider-Man. I know what's going on. I know like how to be a hero. You got to trust me on this. I'm just going to do it. And then maybe you have the new Spider-Man himself trying to be like, hey, yo, buddy. No, I could do this myself too. Maybe it's going to make just all speculations on this. As well then, we also have the Venom symbiote sneaks onto Peter while he and MJ reunite then with Harry, interestingly enough. Norman Osborn then hires Kraven in relation to the symbiote and Miles' ability. Well, eventually, Kraven rejects the contract due to its limitations on the tactics he can employ and engages Spider-Man like he's a new challenge, and then apparently goes and upsets Norman off. So basically, it's kind of like the idea of like a betrayal or them trying to work in this stuff or whatever it might be in terms of these big leaks. Kraven summons his henchmen then to help him draw Peter and Miles Morales out. Crimes from his henchmen include jumping in on rooftop camps and mass POIs that are actually traps and ambushes that actually were sent by him. Then as well, there are playable sections with Eddie Brock. Devs took player feedback on the MJ and Miles sections in the first game, and there's a lot less shoehorn stealth. It's basically a walking simulator where you see the environment of New York City, and then the antics of Spider-Man and his villains from the perspective of a normal person. So very intriguing. So kind of like the idea for this is that like, I don't know how to summarize it better because I'm really honestly got the best when it comes to Spider-Man lore, but it kind of seems like they're trying to go make it a little bit more immersive too for those side characters. Some things I didn't necessarily really like too as well when it came to the OG Spider-Man games was that like those, well, MJ scenes were a little bit boring. I do remember like one scene you're in like, I think it was like an art museum or like had to like sneak in some like kind of fancier spot and do a bit of research work or like going into people's buildings, which I can understand the mix up and the flow of the game to make the game seem a little bit more chill and kind of like change the pace of the game, etc., etc. I didn't mind it, but in most traditional senses, I'm not really the biggest fan. Like, I'd actually rather go do other stuff. Like, you know, if I played a superhero game, I want to play as a superhero myself if I have the chance to. So it's a little kind of weird to go and see how they're at least taking player feedback based on the leaks themselves. So basically, they're saying, like, I like everything you're saying, OP, tell us more too as well, and people are kind of curious on top of this, in terms of the killer, in terms of like what might be going on with the game, etc., etc. So we saw a lot of really kind of cool news when it comes to it. Now, obviously, when you kind of go these threads too as well, some folks are out here kind of curious on all this type of stuff, where some people are trying to go and say, like, a lot of these leaks actually line up, where they say that lines up with the person who claimed to have played a test of the game. Because don't forget, there are going to be quality assurance testers and people out there trying to play the game, enjoy the game, or do whatever to, well, obviously play the game in the first place. So if they have this game coming in the next few months, there's probably people who are, like I said, testing for bugs, doing quality control, or just making sure the game is actually a fun game. They describe the killer as looking like Sin Eater. Either both leaks are legit, or this person is using another fake leak to look more credible, but they sound confident in how Craven's last name spelling will verify their leak, so I don't know. So apparently this leak is actually seeming like a little bit more, I guess, gusto-filled than expected. They're also saying Eddie being introduced and becoming Venom after being absent from the first 2 games, and everything pointing to Harry being the host is so bizarre in terms of like just like this Spider-Man lore. Which once again, they actually have a mention to go and say that they barely worked him on in the prior games, stating, I still have no idea how they'll make Eddie work in the story, concerning all the build-up over Harry Osborn having the symbiote, and the fact that he would probably be a more structured and earned conflict for this Peter Parker, given we know based on the first game. Because don't forget, the first game did have a lot of lore and also characters built out into it and story building. MJ and Harry were extremely close to each other, and he was mentioned a grand total of once in one of the backpack collectibles in the first game. It seems like him and Parker were on amicable terms when he left the bungle. So although it would be on brand for Eddie, considering he usually has the most pathetic, borderline idiotic reasons for hating Parker in the comics as much as he does, so it would kind of make sense too if he kind of just randomly started hating Spider-Man throughout the game itself. They did also say the serial killer thing is also interesting, because they could also be talking about Wrath doing her vigilante work outside the constraints of the law, but also saw a previous rumor suggesting Sin Eater would either be a minor or supporting antagonist in the story too as well, which also makes a lot of sense too, because if you guys remember the first Spider-Man game, there was also a lot of like side protagonists who tied into the game as well, like the little mini bosses and stuff. Kind of fits a lot of the game genres too as well on top of that too. So Eater would either be a minor or supporting antagonist in the story, which would tie perfectly with Yuri, considering the whole Jean D. Wolf thing, if they actually go that route. Stanley Carter is actually a pretty underrated Spidey villain in my opinion, so it'd be cool if Insomniac actually ended up using him somewhere too as well. So a lot of folks are kind of torn on this too, or even the next comments, like I hope they don't actually introduce Eddie unless they already have some really good story on stone. I'm way more interested in seeing Harry become Venom. I've always been a fan of the concept, and I'd take that any day over Harry as the Green Goblin for the 100th time too as well. But a lot of people are actually saying, like, hey, even though it's coming from 4chan, which once again doesn't always have the most reputable backtrack, they're being like, yo, it doesn't actually seem that far-fetched. However, they are saying they're skeptical too about the random name change, making the Venom's host Eddie and not Harry, making Eddie the host after being completely absent for the first 2 games too as well would make the actual post-game scenes not be good, or maybe Eddie's being a red herring with multiple symbiotes being in the wild, probably having Eddie's Venom ending up as an ally. I think they're doing Harry's addiction storyline as a symbiote host too as well. So I think it's kind of intriguing too, because people are like now discussing like maybe the potential like drug stuff, try with the character's history, how things may or may not be adopted in the future, and overall this could actually lead to a lot more interesting and maybe a more unique Spider-Man story. Now once again, a lot of this stuff is just potentially just rumors, and on this actually almost came out like just as of today, so the discussion's like very, very limited, and not many folks are kind of out here looking for this too as well, but it's intriguing because we don't know almost anything on the Spider-Man story. Once again, people are saying this, where people 100% just don't know. Like, we haven't seen trailers. We even could look through the actual Insomniac things where it's like, hey, why haven't we seen anything for like 2 years? It's coming in a few months. What's going on with the story? What's going on with the lore? What's going on with the characters? But maybe if they want to have these small twists and somewhat outside the usual like Spider-Man lore and Spider-Man story, they may be trying to go and keep this under wraps the best they possibly can to go and maybe surprise fans, or maybe kind of give a huge surprise release right before, maybe like 1 or 2 months before the game comes out, to make sure the pre-orders and everything else are as good as possible. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts and comments on this really big Spider-Man leak as well. I'm kind of curious to see the gameplay and everything else too. Hopefully we can see it sooner rather than later. As well, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Leave a like and your thoughts down below. We also do have the Twitch down below if you guys want to hang out and say hi, if you guys want to follow, do whatever. Love to have you guys there. And same on the Twitter too as well. And of course, subscribe if you guys are new. I'll have more videos all out tomorrow. And I appreciate you guys all so much for existing. As always, love you guys.